Twice in 8 years I've had 9 to 12 month periods where I've hit a wall in terms of progress, but with some small changes I managed to completely change the trajectory of my running and continue to improve year on year ever since. Now those changes are small but so effective that I genuinely want to say that these have saved my running, because there were a few periods during those stagnant times where I really wanted to throw in the towel. So what were these changes? Well, let's dive in and find out. So let's address the thumbnail. That's the first thing that you guys have seen and clicked on. It's all about the running watch. That is the first thing that I want to hammer home to you guys. It's the running watch and how I changed the setup of it to help me enjoy running so much more. I was becoming so obsessed with splits and metrics and everything my watch could give me that I was really losing sight of what I was actually doing with my running. And again, during these stagnant periods, you become obsessed with splits and getting faster. And I was getting to a point where things were getting worse because I was just obsessing over what I was running, and on days when I wasn't getting faster or I was running slower than normal, I was getting really frustrated, beating myself up and just digging myself into a hole. Now there are two things that really happened here at this point, mainly about 4 years ago. For the fact is, I live in an area of natural beauty, the Forest of Dean, and I really woke up one day and realised that I wasn't even looking up at the scenery that I was running in. I was just more focused on staring at my watch and hoping that I could run this split faster than last week's workout. And that was the first thing that really smacked me in the face, and the second was just engaging myself and listening a little bit more to elite runners and understanding how they work and what they do. And it really became so apparent that these guys worked so much more on effort rather than by time and pace. And in terms of what they were learning during their training, it was to learn to lock into marathon effort and half marathon effort and 10k effort, and the pace then became a byproduct of what they were running. And this was such a profound thing for me, because I realized, actually, why aren't I doing this? Why aren't I just locking in and thinking, right, I'm just going to run to what I think the effort is that I need to be, and let's just see what the pace was. And literally within 2 or 3 months, everything had changed. And so with those two realizations, I just became so much more of a relaxed runner. I just started enjoying myself more. I got back to the reason why I was running, and then performances started to come. The paces followed. I ran by effort. Suddenly the paces started to flow, and then I'd become surprised on some days when I would run what I felt was a certain effort and look at my watch at the end, check the splits on Strava when I got home and go, oh, I ran that pace. Incredible. And all these positive things came from those changes, and to the point now where I don't even run with auto lap on. So if I'm going for an easy or moderate run, or just a long run of a certain duration where there's no pace changes or nothing else required, I just press start and stop. I've just got average pace on there, and that's all I've got. I've got no mile splits, no data feeding back to me, and it's wonderful. The heart rate's on there. I can't get rid of that, but I never train to heart rate. I'm always training to feel. And the only other thing I use it for now is for workouts. If I need to set up workouts on there, I'll build a workout in Garmin Workout Builder, export it to my watch so my watch can do all the stuff for me. It can beep and tell me when to go, when to stop, and I don't need to look at anything. It's wonderful, and it has made a massive difference to my running. And the second thing that really massively helped, just leapfrogging on straight from point number one, is that our bodies don't understand what paces are. So when I was in that rut, when I was looking at my watch, when I was going, why does 7-minute mile pace feel good today but it felt really bad yesterday? And then the next day, why does 7-minute mile pace feel really bad today but it felt good yesterday? Understanding that there are so many variables that go into our runs each day. Have we fueled well? Are we a bit dehydrated? Are we feeling a bit sick? What's the weather like? Is it a bit warmer than what it was a few days ago? There are so many things that are going to impact what a certain pace feels like to us. And so getting it into our heads, and my head in particular, that our body doesn't understand pace. Our body only knows the effort it's putting out. So this is why it's been a massive thing for me to learn to run to effort rather than pace, because as I said, on one given day a certain pace will feel really good, and on another day it just won't. We can lock in and we can start to get close so that on some days it doesn't feel quite such a massive gap from feeling good to bad, and as we get fitter and faster that gap kind of closes. But overall, some days things just aren't going to click, and accepting that that's okay is a big part of running. It's a massive part of it, because mentally we can really beat ourselves up if we don't hit certain effort levels and the pace doesn't match. So just understanding that our body has no idea what pace is all about. Our body only understands the effort that we're putting in, and what it's having to do to hold a certain pace. That's all our body cares about. So again, piggybacking off point number one, this is all about understanding that the watch is a tool to be used sensibly to help us track our workouts, help us track our runs, but our body needs to be in control of the effort that we put out, and then tuning into what we are doing is so key. And the third thing that was massively profound for me, again about 4 or 5 years ago when I really hit a bit of a wall, was learning about the different zones or effort levels that we can run in, learning about my aerobic and anaerobic thresholds, learning about the fitness curve, and learning about the different zones that we can train in. Now, although my training style has changed over the years, back then I was very much doing fast and slow miles, and that was it. Just literally learning that was all I was doing, but then understanding that there was more zones that I could be running in and more areas, which made running more enjoyable, but made my fitness jump massively. So in the very beginning, I would just simply run fast for the first 3 or 4 months of my running journey, thinking that that's how I got fast. Then I understood the balance of running fast and slow, and I started to master that, but I very much took that black and white, fast and slow, that's it. So understanding that I could then run easy and steady or moderate, and that was all below my aerobic threshold. And then after my aerobic threshold, once I tipped over that, understanding and learning a bit more about training at marathon pace and half marathon pace and 10k paces, and then what the purpose of those really fast, short, sharp intervals were. So learning about specifics in training, how to start training specifically for an event, rather than just going, I'm going to do some intervals this week, and then the rest of my week is just going to be really slow mileage. Understanding that there were different areas that I could train in made such a big difference. Point number 4, fueling. One of the biggest things that I was guilty of for a long period of time, probably up until a couple of years ago, under fueling my sessions and long runs. It was a game changer when I decided to actually take this sort of stuff seriously and really start to dial in and focus on fueling and making sure my body was ready for the sessions that I was about to undertake. Now, I know that might sound a little bit overkill, but for me, what I was doing was taking pride in the fact that I was getting up really early, which I still do, to get my runs done, but I wasn't having any fuel before I went out for my run, and sometimes I was having really poor food the day before, meaning that some days my sessions would go well if I'd eaten well the day before, and other times they wouldn't. But I would often find that towards the end of a session, regardless of what I'd eaten the day before, I'd really get very lethargic, my form would absolutely go to pot, and I would feel terrible. And that's just lack of fueling, and understanding that that's not particularly a good thing for us to do. There are times and places where we should go out and do, if you want to call it, fasted runs or that sort of thing. That's fine, I get it. I do that on all of my easy and moderate runs, but when it comes to sessions and long runs, I just don't do that anymore. I've understood that keeping good form, feeling energized, means that I'm going to get the best out of my sessions. I'm going to feel the best. It's going to mentally boost me, but physically as well, I'm going to feel really good. So making sure I'm well fueled for all my workouts now, and also my long runs, has been an absolute game changer. And point number 5 is all about getting a structure. This was massive for me. Again, I'm talking probably 6 or 7 years ago now, and then again I plateaued, and then switching things up about 3 or 4 years ago was a massive thing. Again, in the beginning I was making my own training plans, trying to learn, thinking I knew what I was doing, and I really didn't. When I look back at my training now, it was just a hodgepodge mess of kind of blocks and weeks put together where I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just slapping some interval workouts in the week, and the rest of the time I was running slow. And then after I'd kind of stepped up from there and put my own training together, there really was no flow with my training plans, and there was no structure going from block to block, and it was all a little bit of a mess. So what did I do about that? Well, I immersed myself in the world of running by reading, by watching, by listening, learning, podcasts, videos, books, you name it. I was trying to read it all, learn about the best coaches, and then of course getting a couple of coaches myself. I'm now working with my 3rd coach, but having different coaches throughout my running journey has massively helped me learn and understand how to structure things, how to structure your training, how to put blocks together, what works best. And over time you start to learn what works best for you and what doesn't. We're all different, and we'll all find that we respond differently to certain stimulus, but overall just having that basic understanding of having a proper structure makes a massive difference to your long-term performance. And if you're able to stack block after block after block, which are all progressing you in the right way, then again, I've got to say, it will make the world of difference to you. And the final thing I want to leave you guys on is number 6, appreciating that variety not only is a spice of life, but variety is great for your running performance performance long term. So what do I mean by that? Again, I just mean simply mixing up training blocks for distances. Don't always train for the same distance and event. Do mix things up. Do stimulate your body in different ways. If you're a marathon runner, do consider training for shorter, sharper stuff. If you're a track runner, do consider training for sort of like a 5 and a 10k road race, just to mix things up. Your body will appreciate training for different things, so that when you go back to your favorite thing to train for, you're going to be in a better position, because you're either going to be faster, or you're going to have a bigger aerobic engine, whatever it might be. And also consider mixing up the different types of terrains that you run on and where you run. Have different training blocks that target different things. It's a massive thing for me. I've done training blocks for 10Ks, half marathons, mountain marathons. I've done everything. I've put a massive focus on hills, massive focus on flat running, massive focus on undulations, and every single block has a different type of stimulus, because if we do the same thing over and over and over again and we expect to get better or get better a lot, we're just going to be bashing our head against a brick wall. It's not going to work for us. We just need to be able to spice things up, vary things, take some certain weeks out to go and train for something slightly different. So when we get back to what we love doing, we're just going to be in so much of a better position. Oh, and just before I go, a cheeky number 7, strength and conditioning. I'd feel a hypocrite if I sat here and chucked this in as a main point, because I've only been doing it for 7 or 8 months now, but I've been doing it for 7 or 8 months consistently, and it's making the world of difference. You know, when you just hit that plateau, like I've been talking about, I've had a couple in my running career, and although I'm still on an upward trajectory, it really has made that trajectory now go a lot steeper, and I'm feeling like I'm getting a lot fitter, a lot faster, and that's because of strength and conditioning. Adding this into my running has made the world of difference. So I'm going to throw that in there. I can't add it as a main point. Maybe when I've been committed to it for over a year, I'll feel like I can sit here and talk a little bit more about it. But for now, I'm still work in progress with that. But after 7 or 8 months, it's working wonders. So that's it from me. I'd love to hear from you guys. What are the things that you have implemented into your running that has made the world of difference? Drop it in the comments below. Let's get that discussion going. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one. Until then.